live on a planet of water. Water captivates our senses. Water is fun. No water, no life. There are regions in the world that show how we can respect and use water better in the future. From time immemorial, it's been the lifeline of the Middle East, the River Jordan. A cradle of civilizations and, for Christians, a holy river. Like a green ribbon, the fertile Jordan Valley meanders through the desert and provides nurture for 16 million Israelis, Jordanians, and Palestinians. On its way to the Dead Sea, the river becomes a trickle. The Dead Sea is also short of water. Water shortage has long been a source of conflict in the region.
Hello, Gidon. Hey, man. How you doing?
Welcome to Israel.
Okay, yeah.
Great thing.
But there are people who are looking for solutions, together, beyond all boundaries. They're discovering new water sources and trying one step at a time to save water. All this serves two purposes: saving the Jordan and securing peace. But is such a thing at all possible? The Golan Heights, in the Israeli-Syrian border region in the far north of Israel. Winter sports for Israelis at a height of 2,000 meters. Snow and rain provide water for a region dominated by dust-dry deserts. These mountains are the source of rushing rivers which feed the Jordan. Jordan is the lifeblood of Israel, which on average experiences only about half the rainfall of Central Europe. Shortly after the start of its 250-kilometer-long journey south, the Jordan supplies the water for a spectacular wetland region. The Hula Valley once held a vast lake, fringed with marshes, 6 times larger than today's nature reserve. The region's last water buffaloes have survived here. They were introduced by farmers in the 8th century as milk suppliers and beasts of burden. The Koipu is also an immigrant, originally from South America. Its rust-colored teeth contain iron. That makes them harder and enables them to chew thick roots and stems. Migratory birds like the glossy ibis feed on fish and snails in the marshes, a stop-off on their flights between Africa and Europe. A fascinating natural spectacle is provided by the flock of over 35,000 cranes, which regularly spend the winter here. They've long got used to the tractors. There isn't any farming in the nature reserve. Instead, the tractors carry tourists and the tasty snacks they bring with them. Maybe that's one reason why the world's biggest gathering of common crane takes place here in the Hula Valley. The marshland benefits from the water of the Jordan, but the river also benefits. The swamps purify its water. Heading south from the Hula Valley, the Jordan soon reaches a lake, made world famous by the Bible. The Sea of Galilee was the scene of many reported miracles. It was here that Jesus walked on water, and the fisherman Peter lived on its shores. The fertile shores have been settled by people for centuries. Nowadays, the sea attracts over 1 million bathing visitors and pilgrims a year. The biggest freshwater lake in the Middle East has another role as well. It provides Israelis, Palestinians and Jordanians with drinking water. The river meanders from the Sea of Galilee through the Jordan Valley, becoming the border between Israel and Jordan. To the south of Jericho, at the lowest place on earth, it flows into the Dead Sea, one of the world's biggest salt lakes. The Sea of Galilee is the starting point of an adventurous journey which transforms the Jordan. The measurement at the lake shows the water level at 212 meters below sea level. But now in winter, during the rainiest time of the year, it should be 4 meters higher. The low water level also affects the River Jordan as it flows on its way south of the lake. This is where the settlers of Israel have turned a strip of land into a flourishing landscape. The farmers are still pumping the water for their fields directly out of the Jordan. Before the State of Israel was established in 1948, Jewish settlers were arriving in what was then Palestine from all over the world, and the pioneers had to feed themselves. The first steps were hard. Very few of the settlers were farmers, but they did their best to make the land arable. This required one thing above all others: water. Plenty of water. Today, the area around the Sea of Galilee, formerly a barren region, shows how successful the pioneers were. To make other desert parts of Israel fertile, canals were built, which still transport water from the lake throughout the country. Agriculture now takes up a quarter of the land area. The basis for this progress is the water of the Jordan. But some people are worried about the future of the river. Gideon Bromberg is a lawyer, specializing in environmental law. Even though this stretch of the river looks beautiful, he knows that the Jordan has long ceased to be a natural river.
It's still not the River Jordan. This is still a stretch of a man-made swimming pool, basically. But as we can see, the river doesn't flow anymore here. So there's water that's released in this stretch to remind us what the River Jordan used to look like. And that's why this stretch is important, but it's not enough.
Just a couple of kilometers further on, this beautiful section of the river comes to an abrupt end. A dam changes the face of the river. It's been dammed to make it easier to pump the water out.
What we see here is the end of the River Jordan, leaving the Sea of Galilee, an earthen dam. And instead of the river continuing to flow on its journey to the Dead Sea, we see a pipe.
What flows out of this pipe is what's left of the Jordan. Gideon Bromberg wants to see this changed, and the Jordan to become a river once again, worthy of its name.
It is possible to bring some of the water back and to use the river again as the natural carrier of water down the valley to the Dead Sea.
Over 20 years ago, Gideon Bromberg set up the environmental organization EcoPeace to stop the Jordan drying out on its journey south. Just a few kilometers from the dam, the river is canalized in order to supply the farmland further south with its water. The River Jordan is approaching the border region between Israel and Jordan and arrives at a place steeped in history. Here at Naharaim, work began in 1927 on one of the first hydroelectric power stations in the Middle East to supply Palestine, then under British administration, with electricity. Nowadays, the power station sits high and dry. It's in ruins. Its heyday was already over by 1948. Traces of the destruction are still visible. After the founding of Israel, tension grew with the country's Arab neighbors, culminating in a war. Only in 1994 was peace sealed between Israel and Jordan. But the region is still unstable. There remains a deep divide between Israelis and Palestinians.
How are you doing?
Gideon Bromberg wants to bridge this gulf. On the border with Jordan, he's meeting a fellow campaigner from the other side of the river. The Jordanian Munketh Mehyar is a qualified landscape designer. Through EcoPeace, he and Gideon have the chance of cross-border cooperation for the future of their river.
Welcome to Israel.
Today they intend to visit the old hydroelectric power plant together. They seem happy in each other's company, but Munketh still has clear memories of their first meeting over 20 years earlier.
It was hard for me back then to even imagine meeting Israelis. They were our arch enemies. And suddenly I was expected to work with them. So when the Israelis stood in the hotel reception and were greeted warmly by the Palestinians, I was surprised.
والفلسطينيين نزلوا يشوفوهم.
That broke the ice for me. From then on, I found it easier to make contact with Israelis myself in order to get something off the ground together.
One fellow activist is missing on today's trip, a Palestinian. He is not allowed to travel freely in Israel. Neighbors getting together on the Jordan is often difficult. Gidon and Munketh are planning a unique meeting place at this site. They want to revitalize the area around the old hydroelectric power plant. They also see their joint efforts for the Jordan as a symbol of reconciliation.
What the Jordan River represents is an opportunity to integrate, to work together.
We know that sovereignty is a key issue here to Israel, to Jordan, and to Palestine, because we're talking about the whole Jordan Valley that runs between the Lake Tiberias and the Dead Sea.
On the site of the former hydroelectric power plant, which lies within Jordanian territory, they're planning a national park. The vision, when someday the Jordan carries more water, as it used to, a large-scale wetland area could be created here, which would attract wildlife. The ruins of the power plant would then be part of a peace park. That's what Gidon and Munketh already call the place.
The way we look at it, it will be a multi-ecotourism monster in the area.
Without the need for a passport, a visa, any pre-arrangements, because people really need to visualize what peace can look like.
But it's all still a dream which unites people beyond borders. Not 50 kilometers from the old power plant, arid hills shape the face of Jordan. On the way to Amman, with desert left and right. Amman is the capital of Jordan, with 4 million inhabitants. The fortress is nearly 3,000 years old and a symbol of the city. The palace was supplied with precious rainwater from a cistern. Today, too, the elixir of life has to be strictly rationed in one of the driest countries in the world. The waterworks supplies fresh water just once a week. For the inhabitants of Amman, like Anwar Abdul Hamour, the day the water comes is a blessing every time. She checks that the water is flowing. Every household has a plastic tank on the roof. Every drop of the rationed drinking water is stored here until the next time water flows through the pipes. People have to manage with this for 7 days. For Anwar and her family, this means saving water wherever possible.
When it's hot in summer, water is scarce and the situation is accordingly dramatic. Every cubic meter of water that we can get from the city, as now, costs us around half a dinar. If we don't manage with what's delivered, we can only order more from a commercial company. You pay about 8 times the normal price for that. And most families in Amman can't afford that.
Anwar is not only an inhabitant of Amman, but is also actively involved in EcoPeace. Together with Munketh, she's looking for ways out of the water crisis, especially since the problem is getting worse. The population is growing faster than in neighboring Israel, and rising numbers of Syrian refugees also need water. Munketh needs some fresh ideas. To discuss new approaches, Munketh is meeting his Jordanian project leaders. They all know people in the Jordan Valley who are affected by water shortage. They're here to exchange their individual experiences. The conservationists know that the water crisis in their country can only be tackled in many small steps. Sometimes their work also reveals serious failings on the part of the authorities. Agricultural engineer Abdel Rahman Sultan has come across a treasure in the midst of these arid hills that had fallen into oblivion.
I came here in 2003 with some students to clear up litter and refuse. That's when, by chance, I discovered this unused reservoir and immediately had an idea. I thought, it's a sin that no one's using this lake anymore. We could turn the area into a nature and leisure park.
The reservoir was built to collect rainwater in winter, but over the years the authorities responsible had obviously lost interest in it. It took EcoPeace to restore the fortunes of the reservoir. The ecologists are using the stored water to create a little oasis. Jordanian school children come here to marvel at a genuine small forest. It's something unique in this region. To irrigate the park, Abdul and his team have repaired and extended the piping system. The green miracle in the desert is visible from afar. Vegetation is spreading further and further out from the reservoir. But Abdul's plans go even further.
We are working to ensure that the reservoir stores even more water in future and can release part of it into a dried-up stream. If we can succeed in giving water back to the River Jordan, the whole ecosystem would benefit.
This goal still has to be achieved, but part of the Jordan Valley has become visibly greener. In Jordan, 2/3 of all water resources are used for agriculture. The farmers draw their water from the King Abdullah Canal, which is fed from the Jordan. Winter is harvest time in Jordan. Oranges need a lot of water, but the water available to farmers is strictly limited by the authorities. A lot of farmers would like to plant more, but there isn't the water for it. For a year now, farmer Muatazim Al-Dulki has been advised by an agricultural engineer from the development organization USAID. Muatazim wants to try something new on his farm. He's invested in a new irrigation system. Engineer Light Al-Waqid is helping him to use the water available more efficiently. He comes regularly to check the filters, hoses and the state of the plants. In winter, a newly built reservoir collects rainwater. Using the simple technique of drip irrigation, the farmer can make water savings of up to 75% and can then expand his planting accordingly.
The trees in this plantation are just a year old. With traditional watering, they take 5 or 6 years to reach this size. This is only possible through targeted irrigation, and the water costs are cut to a minimum. You don't get rich from citrus fruits, but if the trees grow as fast as this, they bring in an income faster. The investment has paid off. Muatsim will soon be producing more than his competitors, and he's well equipped for the future.
Water rationing is a challenge for everyone in Jordan. In the Palestinian West Bank, water supplies are even more difficult. Fences separate the territory from Israel. Jericho, said to be the oldest city in the world. All over the city there are testimonies to ancient cultures, like these ruins of a caliph's palace. In the middle of the desert, Christians have also left their traces. Some of the oldest monasteries in the world still tower above the dust-dry valleys. In view of the aridity, it's surprising that Jericho is the El Dorado of Palestinian fruit and vegetable growing. Many Palestinians miss the Jordan, which now lies in the restricted military zone. Palestinians can continue to farm in the West Bank thanks only to a few water sources in the mountains. Ancient irrigation channels carry the water to the fields. The Al Aouja spring, a few kilometers outside Jericho, is a winter attraction for many Palestinians. Mohamed Saideh grew up near the spring and now works as an ecologist for EcoPeace. Mohamed is constantly on the move, recording the state of the water supplies. The spring in the desert with its bountiful waters is very special to him.
For me, it's a place where we can have fun in the middle of the countryside. I learned to swim here, like everyone else. It's the most important place from my childhood. I still sometimes jump into the water here. This spring is simply a miracle.
When the weather's good, hundreds of families come here at the weekend to enjoy the fresh air. But the canal has water for only months a year and has to supply all the farmers in the valley. Israeli settlers also use the fresh spring water. An Israeli water provider pumps it from the depths to the surface and supplies the settlement. It's the only way green oases can be created in the heart of the Palestinian West Bank. The Israeli settlement is a source of resentment for many Palestinian farmers. They think the water distribution is unjust, claiming that it leaves them short. In this smouldering conflict, EcoPeace is looking for pragmatic solutions and is encouraging young Palestinians to be as economical as possible with their most precious commodity. Mohamed has built a treatment plant with the simplest of means. He shows schoolgirls how they can use it to filter household wastewater and process it for watering their own gardens. Many Palestinians think it's unhygienic to reuse wastewater. But Mohamed shows them that the filters of coarse gravel and sand are effective. Without this measure, the rinsing water that flows in here from the EcoPeace school centre would otherwise be lost.
اوكي فرجيهم المي خلينا نلم مصاريف يعني انه شيء اسمه مجاري او شيء زي هيك فيش في الهريح ايه
I didn't know you could reuse water. I've never seen anything like this before. We have a big garden and need a lot of water. This is a good way of saving water, especially in summer. This could also be good for our orange trees.
Purified wastewater, a small step with big results. Near Jericho, in the middle of the restricted military zone between Israel and Jordan, there's a sort of Mecca for Christians. This is where, in 2011, the only free access to the Jordan was set up. Floats pick out the line of the border. On both the Jordanian and the Israeli side, pilgrims wait for the great moment, contact with genuine Jordan water. Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus is said to have been baptized at this spot. Pilgrims from all over the world follow his example. Gaining access to the Jordan is a rare privilege in the border area. For Palestinians, it's only possible at this Christian place of pilgrimage. Mohaned's father grew up directly by the river. But since the Six-Day War in 1967, when Israeli forces occupied the West Bank and he and his family had to leave their home, he had never seen the Jordan again. Most of the Palestinian bank of the Jordan has been fenced off or mined since then. Today is a great day for Mohaned's father. The 75-year-old stands with mixed feelings by a river that has changed enormously.
Once the Jordan was the fastest flowing river in the world. We learned that in geography lessons. Nowadays it looks to me more like the slowest river.
Mohaned's father is also shocked by the water quality.
All waste water. That's not the water of the Jordan. Filth, filth, filth. I grew up right by the river. The Jordan means my life to me, the air that I breathe. It's unimaginable living without this river and its delicious fish back then.
My father keeps telling me how good it is that EcoPeace is working for the Jordan. But he also says that we should strive to ensure that he and other Palestinian refugees can return to their old home on the Jordan. After all, they too are part of this ecosystem.
EcoPeace wants the peoples of the Jordan Valley to find a way towards peace through their common river. Far upriver from the famous baptism site on Israeli territory, the river is being polluted by wastewater. The wastewater comes not only from agriculture, but also from huge fish farms. Aquaculture accounts for less than 1% of Israel's economic power. But intensive fish farming requires vast amounts of water. A large part of the water is taken directly from the sacred river. Yigal Magen, a former employee of the Israeli Ministry of Agriculture, has resolved to clean up the water in the fish farms before its return to the Jordan. He has helped develop a new filtration system by which the water in the fish tanks can be used for a longer period of time. It would not be difficult to re-equip every fish farm along the Jordan with these units. Fish farmer Uri Heimson is one of the first to try out the new filter technology. The inventor is convinced of the economic and ecological benefits.
This type of water purification unit saves a lot of water. When we return the water to the environment following thorough filtration, there's hardly any difference. It's virtually the same quality as before.
Fish farmer Uri Heimson is happy to be able to return clean water to the Jordan. The new filter technology is helping him to draw up to 85% less water from the Jordan. On a farm like this, that's many millions of litres. Water that the Jordan can make good use of. An entire ecosystem benefits. The golden jackal and many species of birds. New solutions to agriculture's thirst for water are also being sought by the operators of a test farm for fruit and vegetables in Israel. Here, high-tech is helping to save even more water than by the drip irrigation method. Oded Rahav is trying to communicate with his plants in the belief that they know best what they need. For the last 13 years, Oded has been working as a landscape ecologist. But let's let the fruit speak for itself.
We want to find out exactly what the plant is feeling. We observe how it opens and closes, how it breathes. We then put the irrigation on automatic pilot.
To determine the water requirements of various plants, Oded and his colleague have attached sensors to them. They register not only how the fruit is ripening, they also measure the growth of the stem and even the stress levels of the leaves.
The sensors supply the same sort of information as the doctor's stethoscope. These data are then fed into the watering computer. What happens next is incredible. The plant starts to communicate with the technology and tell it how much water it needs. A real eye-opener for us.
Through processing additional weather data, the researchers save even more water. Plants precisely provided for grow better and reduce the burden on the Jordan.
Water is not just a source of life, it's also a gift. We should use it like gold, economically and sensibly. The more technology we employ, the less water we need from the Sea of Galilee or the Jordan. Our aim is not just for us to deploy this technology, but to make it available to our neighboring countries as well.
Nevertheless, agriculture's thirst is constantly growing. If the Jordan is to be saved, something revolutionary needs to happen. Tel Aviv, the business heart of Israel, where economic, not ecological, profit is at the forefront. Gideon Bromberg needs to lobby politicians and business leaders in a bid to influence crucial decisions. Perhaps water from a completely different source could help, from the sea. Technology on a grand scale could offer the solution for the water crisis. In 2013, Israel built the world's most efficient seawater desalination plants. They produce more drinking water than the population of Israel needs.
Today, desalination along the coast itself has meant that the waters of the Sea of Galilee are not needed here where the vast majority of the population live. And that means that we can free up water. We can allow for the flow naturally, not through a pipeline, but naturally, of waters out of the Sea of Galilee, down the Jordan River, and all the way to the Dead Sea.
Thanks to the new desalination plants, a little more water is already flowing through the Jordan Valley than just a few years ago. But even that is so far just a drop in the ocean. The Dead Sea is one of the largest salt lakes on Earth and is the lowest lying, a unique natural wonder. This is where Gundi Shachal works. An immigrant from Germany, she's now a tourist guide and a member of EcoPeace.
The Dead Sea is an absolute wonder. It's spellbinding. The white salt, you see, is absolutely pure. That itself has a magical sort of attraction. Look at the salt formations. It's incredible. I don't know, it's like ice. In high summer, you can walk through the whole snowfields of salt. It's an incredible sight, and the colours change all the time. Sometimes the sea is lilac, sometimes turquoise, then deep blue again, and then grey. Everything.
Tourists come here from all over the world to experience weightlessness and the hustle and bustle of the Dead Sea. Many believe the minerals in the sea cure skin problems. But the salt lake is getting smaller. The Dead Sea is shrinking. Gundi Shachal lives in En-Gedi, an oasis on the Dead Sea.
I can remember when I came to En-Gedi. I was 16 at the time. The Dead Sea came up almost to the road. You just got out of the car and a couple of meters away was the beach. Nowadays, there's no public beach anywhere along the whole of the Dead Sea.
For years, too little water has been flowing from the Jordan and other tributaries into the Dead Sea. As a result, the shores are drying out. What's emerging is a crater landscape. A whole camping site was suddenly swallowed up by the earth.
One afternoon, they called my husband because a young woman had fallen into the hole. The woman was employed as a cleaner here, and she was just crossing the path out front when suddenly the earth gave way beneath her, and she ended up 10 meters down with a broken back.
The cause was the falling water table.
About 20 meters below the ground, there's a thick layer of salt, 18-20 meters thick. As long as the Dead Sea maintained its level, this salt layer was covered with a saturated salt solution, which protected it from dissolving. Then the Dead Sea started to sink. In the meantime, its level has dropped more than 30 meters. This laid bare the salt layer, which could then be washed out by groundwater draining off. This created a cavity, and the ground collapses.
There are now more than 5,000 of these craters around the Dead Sea. Chemical companies are contributing to the catastrophe. To extract potash, magnesium and bromine, they let the precious salt water evaporate in huge basins.
The death of the Dead Sea would be a loss for the whole world. As the deepest place on earth, the Dead Sea is a natural wonder. We have to take responsibility and save it.
Oded Rahav, the researcher who listens to plants talking, wants to send a signal with a top sporting achievement. He intends to swim the Dead Sea. But that's far from easy. The tremendous buoyancy makes swimming not just exhausting, but life-threatening. If you move too much, you can lose control of the body and drown. But Oded is not swimming for pleasure. Together with EcoPeace, he's called for an international protest swim.
I'm happy that we as an international group have managed to raise the flag and say, the time has come to save the sea. Either we save the Dead Sea today or it will really die.
In November 2016, for the first time in history, an international team of swimmers crossed the Dead Sea from Jordan to Israel. They attracted global attention to the impending loss of a World Heritage Site. By uniting their efforts, Israeli, Jordanian and Palestinian conservationists have already achieved a great deal. Their collaboration has brought people closer together and engendered trust. They're convinced they can save the River Jordan and create peace. The greatest dream of the Middle East. But it can only be fulfilled if the politicians also allow it.